Hi, this is Jessica with Dining Traveler, and welcome to the Dining Traveler cooking series where we cook dishes from our favorite destinations at home. And we are going to la playa. We're going to the Puerto Rican beach and making frituras. These are treats that you can find at many of the beachside stands across the island. For this episode, we are gonna make Alcapurrias de Yuca, which are one of my favorites. And this episode is coming courtesy of the National Museum of Puerto Rican Arts and Culture in Chicago, which has a great selection of virtual and in-person events. So make sure you check out their link on my description. Now we're gonna get started with the masa. And I have some fresh yuca. If you can't find fresh yuca, that's fine. Many Latin and Asian supermarkets will already have a pre-peeled cut frozen yuca. Just let it thaw. And here I have a whole piece of yuca. Just make sure you wash the exterior. So we're gonna cut the edges to make it a little bit easier to manage. And then we're gonna cut it in small pieces, I would say like 2 to 3 inches, so it's easier to peel. We're gonna go ahead and peel the yuca, and we're gonna use a small paring knife. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut through the peel. It's pretty thick. We're gonna lift it up with the edge of the knife, obviously being super careful. And you see how it's gonna lift itself up. And we're gonna use the knife to kind of guide us around and peel the yuca. The yuca is peeled, and we are gonna put it through the food processor. And what I do first is run it through the shredding blade. And once that's done, then I attach the big blade and finish making out a nice smooth masa. Now that the shredded yuca is in the food processor, we're gonna add the seasonings. We're gonna add a little bit of achiote oil, sazon, and adobo. The yuca and the seasonings are in, so now let's take it for a spin. So halfway through, we are gonna open the food processor and we're gonna move around the masa to make sure that everything is being evenly distributed. Now the masa is done, it's nice and smooth, smells delicious. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover it with some plastic and put it in the fridge for around an hour, just so the masa can get a bit firm. Next is the picadillo. Picadillo is the filling that we're gonna use for our alcapurria, and it's made with ground meat and all those delicious Puerto Rican spices. So let's get to it. We're gonna get a frying pan and we're gonna add a little bit of olive oil. So the first step is that we are going to add the onions. Now that the onions are soft and have a little bit of color of them, I'm going to go ahead and add the meat. You can use ground beef, ground pork. I like ground pork because I find that it's a bit juicier. So you can get creative. Even for those who are vegan, you can use like Beyond Beef. That works also. Make sure that you are cutting it so we can get those nice fine pieces of meat, especially with the alcapurrias. You really need a nice fine picadillo. Now that it's a bit cooked and those fats are loosening up, this is when I like to add the sofrito, the spices, and the sauce. Huele a boricua, it smells so good. Now the picadillo is done and it has that nice orangey color that comes from the sazon and the tomato sauce, that smell of the sofrito, and it's in nice tiny pieces of meat. And if you do like olives, you could have added them. I just didn't use them with this recipe. Sometimes it depends on what mood I'm in. So just make sure that you chop them very small when you put them in the picadillo. Now we're gonna get ready to assemble the alcapurrias de yuca. And while that's happening, what we're gonna do is we're gonna heat the oil. And you want the oil to be nice and glistening. That's how you know it's ready. And you don't want it too hot because what's gonna happen is gonna burn the alcapurrias, and then they're really crunchy on the outside, but on the inside they still taste raw. So there's a nice balance there. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna grab some of the masa, and this is by eye. I would say that if we were gonna measure it, probably each alcapurria has around 2/3 of a cup of masa, I would say, give or take. But you know, we're Puerto Ricans, we're not a huge fan of measuring. And the good thing about the masa being in the fridge for a little bit is just a bit more pliable. It's much more friendly to work with. And what I like to do here is kind of like make a little cradle for it. And here I'm gonna add the meat. You don't wanna add too much meat because you don't want it to also pop out either. But also you don't want too little meat because we don't like to bite into an alcapurria que no tiene carne. That's awful. And then with the banana leaf, we're gonna bring it in. If you don't have a banana leaf, you can also use parchment paper. It works just fine. Just put a little bit of oil on it so it's a bit easier to manage. And really important, we don't want any pieces of meat sticking out because with the hot oil, it just creates a mess. You don't want the alcapurria to open when you are frying it. The oil is nice and hot, and now we are gonna place the alcapurria carefully into the hot oil. And what I like to do is with a spoon, I like to put a little bit of frying oil on the top of the alcapurria that is exposed just to seal it in a bit. So the alcapurria is nice and golden. We are going to put it on a plate with some paper towels so it can absorb a little bit of the oil. And this is how we make Alcapurrias de Yuca at Casa Dining Traveler. It looks like a little bit of work and it is actually pretty straightforward. You can even make the masa and the picadillo the day before and then assemble and fry the day after. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave them in the comments. And again, I want to thank the National Museum of Puerto Rican Arts and Culture in Chicago for making this video happen. And they have a great selection of virtual and in-person programming. Check out their link on the description. Now to my favorite part, to taste. Se ve muy rico. Not because I made them. Thank you. Bye.